Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me today for our webinar on maintaining your mailing list. Just a couple things before I get started. First of all, this webinar will be about 35-40 minutes long. At the end, there will be time for some Q&A. So if you do think of questions along the way, go ahead and type those into the box that you see in your GoToWebinar window, and I'll be happy to answer as many of those as I can at the end of the webinar. To answer a question I get at every single webinar, and usually more than once, is this webinar being recorded? The answer is yes, I am recording this. I will put the recorded version up on our help site next week. I usually wait about a week and put it up on our help site. So if you want to go back and take a look at some of the things we're going to talk about today, you will be more than welcome to do that. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with how to maintain your mailing list. So first of all, this is what we're going to go through today. I'm going to touch just a little bit on list building practices. This is something that we do webinars on quite a bit. So I'm not going to dwell too much on this. We do have some recorded webinars. We also have a live webinar coming up next month, I believe, on building your mailing list. So we'll talk more in depth at that point about that, but I'm going to touch on it a little bit today. I'm going to talk a little bit about opt-in forms, and then I'm going to talk about how to clean up your list and also using segmentation, how that's going to work for cleaning up your list as well as helping to maintain your recipients in a way that you can manage a lot better. I have a slide with some resources, and then as I said, there will be time for Q&A as well. So let's go ahead. Just a couple things to keep in mind when you're creating your mailing list. The most important piece is get permission. It's really important that you're mailing to people who want to get your email and who have signed up to get your email. Of course, mailing through vertical response, you do need to have an opted-in mailing list, meaning that people have signed up in some way to receive your email. It doesn't have to be through an opt-in form, but in whatever way they're giving you permission, you just want to make sure you're mailing to people who want to get your email. There are lots of lists out there that people sell that you can buy. The problem with using purchase list and why using a permission-based list is so important is there's actually a couple reasons. First of all, from our end, mailing to an address that you've purchased could be very bad. It could be a spam trap address. It could be one that they call a honeypot address. And it could just be a bad address. You just don't know if they're going to be legitimate addresses. The problem from your point of view, from your perspective as a person who's trying to drive business, is that you're mailing to people who have no idea who you are and are very unlikely to really want to interact with a company who's purchasing their address or a company that they don't really know anything about. So it's very hard to get engaged people from a purchase list. So although it is harder to grow your mailing list, it is a much more effective list to be mailing to. You also want to set expectations when you are getting people to sign up to be on your list. And what I mean by this is, how often are you going to be mailing? Are you going to be mailing once a month? Are you going to be mailing twice a month? Let your potential recipients know before they sign up what your mailing plan is, so they know when to expect to get an email from you. You also want to set expectations as to what is going to be in the email. So if you say that you're going to send industry tips and information, make sure that's what you're including in your email. You don't want to get people to sign up for your mailing list and then start sending them random things that have nothing to do with your business or industry or what they're interested in. And keep it fresh. You don't want to send the same stuff all the time to your recipients. You want to make sure that you're keeping them engaged by sending them different things. So building your list is something that you have to do on a continual basis, which is kind of a difficult thing for some people. But because addresses tend to go bad, and they tend to go bad fairly quickly, there's a stat on this slide that says you can lose up to 28% of your list each year to attrition. You know, that could be due to people just changing their email address or people changing jobs, but addresses go bad. So you need to be building your list on a continual basis so that you have a good sized list to be sending your emails to. So use your existing network. Obviously, there's people who already want to hear from you. A good place to start are customers that you have. Um, there's a lot of ways that you can interact with people to help grow your mailing list. And like I said, this is something that we cover in depth on other webinars. This webinar is a little more about maintaining your list. But you also want to make sure that you mail on a regular basis. So make sure you mail at least once a month. That's usually the frequency that we recommend. You can mail more than that if your recipients are expecting it, but at least once a month is what you should be mailing, just so that your recipients don't forget who you are and that they should be reading your email. Because if you mail on a sporadic basis, or if you mail less than once a month, people can forget that they signed up and they could report your email as spam, and you don't want that. Oops. Sorry, we'll look at that at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my account here, and we're going to take a look at a couple of things you can do with your vertical response account to help maintain your list. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is opt-in forms. Now, if you're using vertical response, you want to use an opt-in form. If you happen to be one of our Salesforce users, some of what I'm going to talk about today is probably not going to work for you. And if you're using Salesforce, you should really use their web to lead form, not our opt-in form. The web to lead form goes straight to Salesforce. The opt-in form goes straight to vertical response. So the opt-in form is found under the list section, and you can just click on opt-in form here if you like, or just click here. And this is to help you grow your mailing list. So as I said, this is something that you need to keep doing on a continual basis. But the opt-in form is a really easy way for you to grow your list. And when you set up your account, we automatically create one for you, but you can create your own opt-in form. And I want to show you a couple of things about the opt-in forms to help manage what's going to be going on with your list and your opt-ins in the future. So first of all, you get to name your opt-in form, whatever you want to call it. And this is just so you know where this information is coming from. So I'm going to say, just make something up here. So maybe I'm having a special event and I want people to sign up to receive emails for that or something like that. So we're just going to call it that. I'm going to click Next. And then on this page, you can collect any information that you want. You have to have an email address, obviously, otherwise you're not going to be able to send out an email. But you can add any additional information. So first name is a good one to add, but you can also create a custom field. So if you wanted to have people give you information about something that they're interested in, maybe you're a winery, and so you want to know what people's favorite wine type is. So you could call this, and then I'm going to call this wine type. So you notice this is the field that I'm creating to be added to the mailing list. This is what they're going to see on the form right here. So you have control over all of this information, and it's important to collect what you want from your opt-in form. Later, I'll also show you how you can use the information from your opt-in form to create segments. Anything in your list can be used with the segmentation tools, including the fields on your opt-in form. So you could ask people to put in Chardonnay or whatever type of wine they like the best, and then you can create lists based on that information. You can collect, again, anything that you want here. I could continue to add more fields in here. Maybe I'm not collecting wine types. Maybe I want to track recent purchases that my customers have made. And then they can let me know if there's something that they've purchased recently or something like that. So this is a really easy way for you to collect the exact information that you need from your recipients. I'm not going to go through all the details of this. You can easily change the color of the form. It doesn't have to be gray or the strange blue ones if you've ever seen any of my other demos that I've done. Once you go through all of these, pop up, you can decide that. You can customize the email that they get. The thing I want to point out here is the list. So you have two options here when you're creating your opt-in form. You can create a new list, which you can give a name. You can name it the same thing as your opt-in form, or you can append it to another list. what I would recommend here, and also what our delivery manager would recommend here as well, is that you create a new list. Her reasoning is different than mine. I've worked here for a long time, and I was in our support team for a long time. And one of the hardest things to do with an opt-in form, if you connect it to another list in your account, is to easily find your new signups or to find the people who've been on the list the longest. So what I would recommend is that you create a separate list for your opt-in form. This way you're going to be able to track who's signing up through that form. You can see how active that form is, how often people are signing up to be on that list. And you can also manage the information on the list. As I said, it's easier to find new signups if it's on a separate list, its own mailing list. For delivery purposes, it makes it also much easier for you to track what list is performing better than another. So, maybe there's people who open, since they've signed up on your opt-in form, who open your emails a lot more. They're more engaged. Maybe another list would perform differently if it came from a different source. They might be less likely to open, more non-responders. So by keeping your list separate from other lists, you'll be able to easily manage what's going on with this. And there's no limit to the number of lists that you have in your account, so you can have as many as you'd like. And there's no limit to the number of opt-ins. And then once you're done creating your list, we're going to give you the HTML code for your opt-in form. You just copy this code. I know it's kind of scary looking. You just copy this code, and then you paste it where you want people to sign up. So, for example, you can put it on a blog if you have a blog, and if you have a blog, I would definitely recommend that, or your website, or you can even put it on Facebook. And again, it's free to use the opt-in form, so this is something that makes it really easy for you to grow your list and manage the data that you're going to have on your mailing list as well. So the other thing that I want to talk about is some specific parts of the list's tools that you can use in your vertical response account. So I'm going to go just to the regular list section here. So here is my list section. So one of the things that I would also recommend that you do for your mailing lists, and again, this is something that our delivery manager, Kirsty, would recommend, is that you set up your mailing list based on where people are signing up. So if they're signing up on the opt-in form, here's my opt-in form that I just created, you'll be able to tell how engaged people are in that particular list. On my account here, I have it broken up based on regions. I have California customers, Chicago customers. I have one list of customers. I have new contacts, newsletter subscribers. So how people are signing up to be on your list is an easy way for you to manage the information on your mailing list. So if you have opt-in forms, you'll have that list. If you have people signing up at your store, for example, if you have a storefront and people can sign up to be on your list there, you can create a mailing list based on that part that people are signing up at. If you go to trade shows, and this is a really important thing to do, set up a list specific to the trade show that you attended and then add whoever signed up there to the mailing list. The reason you want to do this is once you start mailing to your addresses on your mailing list, it's entirely possible that there could be an address that's a problem or some addresses that are a problem. They could start reporting your email as spam, for example. It could be going to bad addresses if people are randomly writing down addresses on a list. So it's a lot easier for you if you know the source of the list that you're mailing to, and you can easily find that, because then you can figure out where the problem is. Is there just a bad domain on that mailing list and it's causing a high bounce rate? If you start having any delivery issues, being able to pinpoint the source of your list makes it a lot easier to resolve any of those things. It also makes it easy for you to be able to figure out, again, where you tend to get more signups, and you can also see which list has more engaged recipients. And so by engaged, I mean people who are reading your email, clicking on the link, so they fall into the openers and the clickers. So let's go take a look at some of the tools that are available here in the mailing list section that can help you maintain how your data is stored on here. So I'm going to click on this All Members tab here. And this is going to bring up all the members, but the things that I would like to point out here is, actually that's not the one I want. This Tools tab has a couple of things that you can use to help maintain your list on. First of all, under this download section on the tools, this is where you can download your list. So you, excuse me, you can download a list of all the members who are on your master list. So that would be all the addresses in your account. And you can include whatever fields that are in your account in the mailing list. You can download all of that information if you ever need it. You're also able to download bounces and unsubscribes from here. And you could do one or both, whatever you want to do. So this is one thing that you can do to help maintain a fairly clean list. Once somebody's unsubscribed, you're not going to be able to mail to them. So one of the things you can do is purge their address from your list. So that way when you're looking at the size of your mailing list or how engaged your list is, you're not looking at a false number because some of the people on the list you're not mailing to. So one of the things you can do is download your list of unsubscribes. And the only thing you need is an email address for this action. And then click download. Our system's going to download a CSV file which will have all the unsubscribes on your account. And you can use the unsubscribes and bounce list for whatever you need. So if you have a database outside of vertical response, and a lot of people do something like that, maybe they have a CRM or something, this is a way for you to be able to keep track in whatever source you're using outside of VR of who's unsubscribed or who's bounced. But if you wanted to remove the unsubscribes from your mailing list, you can download them from your account here. Click where it says Mass Update on this Tools tab, still on the same tab. And then you can upload that list and you can delete them. And you'll get this little warning because it's a permanent deletion, but if you're deleting the unsubscribes from your list, that's something that you want. You don't actually want them on there, and you already know that they're unsubscribes. Now, as far as bounces go, that is certainly something that you could also remove from your list if you wanted to delete the bounces from your list. If it says bounce, that's usually a hard bounce. We don't usually record when we're mailing to the addresses soft bounces, but I would certainly try resetting the bounces and mailing to them again before you permanently remove them from your mailing list. But that is also something that you can do so that you have pretty clean lists, and when you're looking at your data, you know when you're mailing to 100 people or your list says 100 people, you also know that there's 100 people getting the email. So it's very easy to do this. You can also do a suppression from here, but I usually don't recommend that. It's usually easier to use the segmentation tool. And you could also unsubscribe a list of addresses as well from this tool, from this tab on your account. This would be something you would use if you're moving from another system, for example, and you already have unsubscribes that you need to mark. This is where you would do it. So let's go back here to the list members. And I'm going to look for a specific address here. And so you can search for whatever information you want to in your list. If you're looking for a particular address or addresses, you can do that. You can find that information just by searching. I have like 8,000 addresses, so it wouldn't be easy for me to scroll through, but searching is very easy, and you can search by a lot of different information. So here is the person that I was looking for. Now if you click on the address, this brings up specific information about this one person. Now I could delete this from my account if I wanted to, or I could unsubscribe this address. So if somebody sends you an email personally and asks you to be unsubscribed, or asks them to be unsubscribed from your list, this is the way you would do it. You can just go into your account and unsubscribe the address if you want to. This shows all of the information that's available for the custom fields, and then the information that I have about this particular person with the fields that I've filled in. Now if you click on the lists tab right here, This will show you the different lists that this particular email address is on. So right now, it's only on the June customers list. Now, if I wanted this guy to be part of a different list, perhaps he got in touch with me and said he really wanted to receive a different email or additional emails, you can just click which lists you want to add them to. You could also suppress the address from a specific list as well, and you can decide if you want to do that or not. Again, these are manual, so this is if they got in touch with you personally. So then you can save changes, and then now his email address will be on more than just the one mailing list. And you can also, if the addresses are bounced, you'll see that here under the actions, and you'll be able to reset it if you want to reset the bounce address and try mailing to it again. If you want to reset the bounces for the list entirely, you can contact our support team and they'll be able to do that for you. So again, we have a couple of easy things to do to make sure that you have all of the correct information for your mailing list. Set them up based on the sources, set up your opt-in forms, separate lists. The other thing that I would like to show you today about maintaining your lists and helping with sending out your email and delivery is our segmentation tool. First of all, before I show you that, I'm going to show you this list field section here. So as I hope most of you know, you've probably all uploaded a list. When you upload a list, you have the option of creating a custom field so that you can have whatever information you want to store on the list. You also saw when I set up an opt-in form that I could create a custom field there as well. You can also create a custom field here in the list section. So if you click on list fields, you can come down here and create your own custom field. This is the one I just created, the one that says wine type that I had on my opt-in form. I can come in here and create another custom field if I want to. What this will do is add, when I go to my mailing list, oh actually I can just go right here. I think I clicked too many things right there. Right, let me try something here. So if I go find the guy that I have on here, by adding a list, a field under the list there, it will add it in here. So this wine type is the same field that I set up on my opt-in form, and it gets added to the contact records for everyone in the account. Now he has no information about that here. These are the two fields I set up because he wasn't part of that opt-in form. But if at some point he becomes interested in one of those things that I had added on my opt-in form, I could come in here and add that information to the field that I created. So again, if you create a field under the list fields link, it will just add it to the list, but it won't add the data until you start uploading or manually entering the information on the contacts. All it really does is just add it as part of the record. So this is just added to the record, but there's no data in there. But it's important to know how to create custom fields because we're going to start talking about segments. So the segmentation tool is something that is actually very powerful, and you can use it for a variety of things. But one of the things that you can use it for is, again, to create lists of very specific recipients. So you saw that I set up on the opt-in form a field that was called wine type, so I could collect my recipient's favorite wine. What I can do with that information is create mailing lists with the segmentation tool based on my recipient's interest. So if they say that they like Merlot or they say that they like Chardonnay, I could create mailing lists for my Chardonnay lovers, and I can send them emails that are targeted specifically to what their interest is. So, for example, I could send out an email once a month that's basically a newsletter with information of what's going on in the winery. But if I wanted to send out a sale email, for example, I know I can send information about Chardonnay sales to this specific mailing list. And because it's what they're specifically interested in, the engagement level is going to be much higher. So again, more people are going to open, click, and because I'm targeting them with something I already know that they like, they'll be more likely to purchase. Again, you don't have to be selling something. If you're a nonprofit organization, for example, you could have it based on donations or volunteer status. Whatever works for your company or organization. These are just examples, but if you can create more specific mailing lists to target the people on your list with what they're most interested in, you're going to have a lot better results on your email marketing. So let me give you some examples of how to use your segmentation tool. So I'm going to click New Segment, and I'm going to call this Recent Purchases. So you can call your segment anything you want. Again, this is just for your reference so you know what's going on in it. I'm going to click Choose Segment Type. Now, this list is going to be based on list information. So I'm only going to do that. I'll talk about this other in just a second. And then from this step, I'm going to select the mailing list that I want to use. I can select however many of these lists that I want to use as part of my segment. Because I want to track whatever recent purchases were, I'm going to use my master list because then I know I'm going to hit everyone that has purchase information. So on my opt-in form, I put in a form that said, have you made a recent purchase? So let's say that's what we're going to be creating. So I'm going to click Done. And then from here, you can select what fields you want to set the query up for. So again, this is why setting up fields in your list becomes important when you want to start using the segmentation tool. So these are all of the custom fields that I've created in my account. I have a lot of different things, but this is my purchases and wine type. I'm going to use this because I know there's stuff here, but let's just say it says purchases. And then from here I can select if I want it to equal or does not equal. Contains, does not contain. So you can set up how you want your query to be. Then you have the option of adding more fields or not. If you only want to query on one thing, you can do that to create your list. So if I was creating a list of people who like Chardonnay, I would be done. I would click Remove and then click Save and Get Results. And this is basically a preview that comes up here, just so that you know that the query is working correctly. This is what the query is, and then if everything looks right. So if I click Save Results, I'll be able to save my mailing list here. So I have 814 people who like Chardonnay, or the color pink, however you want to look at that. I can go back and add another filter if I want to. So I'm going to select or because if I do and, I would have to have people who have pink and another color, and I know they don't have that. So down here. So I can continue to add these specific fields that I want to query on to create my very targeted mailing list. So I'm going to be creating a list of people who like Chardonnay and Merlot. I'm going to have a special event and invite these people who like very different wine types to my event. Click Save Results. And there we go. I have my list. I can set this up and call it whatever I want, but I just click Create List. So now if I come back here to my view, here we go. My recent purchases list, I have 1,600 people on it. So now I have a list of people I know are interested in something very specific. Whether I made my list based on a purchase that they've made recently, maybe they purchased a service that I offer, and I wanted to send out a specific follow-up to that service, if they recently purchased a specific product, if they recently made a donation to a nonprofit, signed up for a webinar, whatever action they've recently taken, you can use that information in your list and create this targeted list. Now I can send an email to these people, and I'm going to know that they're going to be more apt to open my email because they're much more engaged. And so that's another reason why you would want to create segments of your list. So you start out with your lists set up in how people are signing up to be on your list, right? So opt-in, or they come to a trade show or whatever. But then you can start creating sections of your list based on how people are interacting with your company. And so by creating mailing lists of people who are engaged, people who open your emails, people who make purchases at your organization or company, you can send them more specific emails. But you can also mail to these people a little bit more, because these are the people who are very interested in what you're sending them. So you could send them extra information. Maybe you have a special sale going on and you give them a heads up because they are people who spend money with you. And then they also get the email that you send to everyone to announce the sale, for example. Come holiday time, when you start sending out your emails, these are also people that you can try mailing to first if you want to change the frequency in your mailing and see how they react to your increase in frequency. I recently did a presentation, and I was talking to one of the people at the presentation I was at, and she said that she had seen a lot of unsubscribes over the holidays. And I asked her if she changed the frequency of her mailing, and she said, yes, I did, which, most people do. I'm sure you all noticed over the holidays your inbox was packed full of things that you don't normally see. And I said, did you let your recipients know you were going to do that before you started mailing to them more? And she said, well, no. And, people expect to see more emails at the holidays. It is just what happens, but it can also be a frustration. And think about your own inbox and how much information came in over the holidays. And did you unsubscribe from something because you were like, I just can't look at this anymore? So you have to keep that in mind when you're sending to your recipients. So if you are going to change the frequency, especially during the holiday time, just give them a heads up, let them know. But the people who are more tolerant of receiving emails are the ones who are very engaged in what you're sending to them. So that's why you want to do something like this segmentation. So another thing that you can do with the segmentation tool, go over here to new segment. You can set up segments of your list based on how people are responding to your emails. And so that's what this part here is, segment campaign recipients only. I'm going to click Save and Build Segment. Now, this is a test account. I don't have a lot of emails, so I have to select all of them. So this is where it gets interesting, again, on creating these specific mailing lists. So with this option, I can create a list of people who have opened my emails, or, don't do and, clicked. Now I can specify a specific date range, so maybe I could do the last 3 months if I wanted to, which I don't. I actually just want to do no set date range. But you could do that. So maybe you want to select people who've opened your email over the last 3 months, or people who've clicked any link, or you can also specify a link. If there's a specific link you wanted to track in your email, and people who click on it, you send them something specific, you can do that. You can use this tool to create a list based on that information. Again, my test information is not that deep, but what you could do with a list like this, these are the people who are engaged in your email, right? They're opening your email, they're clicking on links, they're probably making purchases, and you can also include that information in here as well. That's what converted is. So these are the people you can create a mailing list of, the most engaged people who are on your list. And these are the people that you send special deals to, that you know when you're sending out something different, maybe you change the look of your email or something like that. These are the people who are going to respond quicker to what you're sending out to them. So I can click Save and Get Results and create a list of these people. And again, this is just a preview to show me how it's all looking. And then I can save. So I'm going to call this engaged list. And now I can go take a look. I have 44 people on my engaged list. So there we go. These are the people that I know who've opened my email or clicked on links. The reason I did or clicked is that if some of your recipients are getting the text version of your email and not the graphical version, they will not be part of the openers. So that's why you also want to include the clickers. Also, anyone who gets the graphical version but they don't turn the images on for whatever reason, but they still click on a link, will also be part of that. You have to keep in mind, again, there's a lot of things that prevent people from turning on the images. They could just be lazy. It could be their email program. They could be looking at it on an older handheld device, older mobile phone. So they're not seeing the images for whatever reason. That's why you also want to include the clickers, because we can track clicks on the links in the text version. So you can still track the people who are engaged just by clicking on the links, even if we're not tracking the opens. That's why I also included the clicks. Now, another thing that you can do is create a list of non-responders. So I'm going to select my campaign recipients. And again, I only have 3, so I have to select these. So now I have people who did not open my email. So these are the people that didn't respond. I could also say who didn't click as well, but that could include people who opened it. So I'm just going to leave it at did not open. So these will be people who, for whatever reason, aren't looking at my email. Maybe the time of day I'm sending to them is wrong. Maybe my subject line isn't catching their eye. Maybe they just haven't felt like reading emails for a while and they just aren't reading them. Maybe they're not interested in what I'm sending to them anymore. There's a lot of reasons that people could be on the non-responders list. So this would create the people who aren't paying attention to my email. So what I can do, oops. Seem to have lost my campaigns here. So what I can do with this, oh no, I have it. Oh, what did I do? I clicked on the wrong thing, I think. Okay, we'll go do this. No, did not open. Okay, what did I, oh, I didn't give it a name. I don't know how I didn't give it a name. Let's try this again. Okay, I don't know. Oh, maybe I don't have any non-responders. These were test emails. Whoops. Don't hit back too many times. All right, let's try this again. Oh, I'm sorry about this. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. I did do it. Okay, I see. I think I hit back too many times. So here is my non-responders. Let's get to here if it will let me. There we go. Important thing, don't hit back a lot in your browser. You can mess things up, even if you've been doing this for a long time. Okay, so here are my non-responders. So there's a couple things I can do with this list. The first thing that I would recommend that you do with your non-responders list is mail to them again. And I would suggest changing the subject line and see if that gets them more engaged. Or check when you're sending your email. If you're not consistent in when you're sending your email, it could just be that it's missing a certain segment of your list. You know, maybe it's hitting them after they've left work for the day and so they don't see the email. I don't know why Microsoft has to check for updates in the middle of webinars, but it's only in the middle of webinars it checks. Um, so send them a new email with maybe at a different time, maybe with a different offer, definitely with a different subject line, and see if you can pull in your non-responders to become people who are more engaged. It could just be that they have some inbox fatigue and they just haven't been looking at emails. It could be that it's just not catching their eye. There's a lot of reasons, and there's a lot you can do to try to get those non-responders back. So it's pretty important also to set your list up with some non-responders just to try to pull them back in. You can try this, and if it doesn't work, you could also try deleting the non-responders from your list. I wouldn't recommend that. Our delivery person probably would. The more engaged people are, the better the delivery is, and the better the or the lower the reports of spam are. So that makes her happy. But you don't want to get rid of people who could potentially become engaged customers just because you haven't quite hit the right thing with them. So having a list of non-responders, you can just test some different things with them and see if you can pull them in. Email marketing does have a lot of testing that's involved, and this is one of the cases where you definitely want to do some testing and see if you can pull in information that's actually going to keep them interested in what's going on.